Ghost of Yotei's time leap was a smart move, even if it upset fans.
A smart idea, huh? Meanwhile, here is a representation of all the times in the past few weeks that Sony and Sucker Punch have been able to celebrate the amazing number of copies that Ghost of Yotei sold. What is up, Space Pirates? This is your Admiral, the endlessly edgy Dr. Disaster, and as of right now, our closest estimate as to how many copies of Ghost of Yotei has sold is somewhere around 1.8 million units after 2.5 weeks of being available for purchase. Meanwhile, Ghost of Tsushima, its predecessor, pushed 2.4 million copies in just 3 days.
Oh no! What happened? Oh no, how terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
There are a number of reasons as to why this happened, not the least of which being the controversy that Ghost of Yotei was embroiled in when one of its developers was caught mocking Charlie Kirk. But one of the things that really turned off a lot of people was the fact that the Ghost franchise already had an immensely popular main character in Jin Sakai, just sitting there, ready for his story to be continued, but instead of picking up where they left off, Sucker Punch decided to replace him with this shit right here.
You're gross.
But at least one person who worked on the game thinks it was brilliant to move on from Jin Sakai. This article here is from The Gamer, where they interview the voice actor for Lord Saito in Ghost of Yotei. It says here, with any beloved franchise, you're going to disappoint somebody, says Chin. I think to take it in a completely different direction like it did was a pretty smart move, because it's certainly within the same world as Tsushima. So, you're going to have the things that you love, but there's also, a lot of new stuff to introduce to new gamers who are new to it, and I think that's a really smart thing to do.
Well, I don't pay you to think.
And then the writer of this article goes on to say it was definitely smart of Sucker Punch to do such a thing from a narrative perspective at the very least, being able to unshackle itself from existing characters and go into Ghost of Yotei with a completely fresh story with a new cast. But why is that a good thing necessarily? They tried to convince me of this a decade ago with the Star Wars sequels movies, telling me it's a good thing, that we aren't focusing on the characters that I actually like. They keep telling me that in all of these new iterations of entertainment, but nobody ever has a straight answer as to why this is a good thing. This is just the media protecting their corporate buddies no matter what the real world results are. There's another interview that I'm going to show you in a minute here, which is just the ultimate in puff pieces. Truly, there are no depths that these game journalists will not sink to in order to protect their corporate masters. They will pretend that any game made by a big corporate studio is just amazing.
I like to eat shit!
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've had a lot of people tell me that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure you check into that, and also, give me a follow over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1, and if you feel like supporting the channel and helping keep the lights on, consider becoming a member for as little as $5 per month. Anyways, let's look at another of these puff pieces that has just come out for Ghost of Yotei. As we discussed a week or so ago, Sony reportedly pulled the plug on marketing for this game early because the sales had fallen off so precipitously. They didn't want to continue spending exorbitant amounts of money on a game that was simply not moving any more units. They exhausted the people who were going to enthusiastically go out and buy the game because they like the shit that Sucker Punch's now former employee said about Charlie Kirk, and they exhausted the normies who don't pay attention to culture war stuff and who simply see some advertisements for a game, see a positive headline from one of these reviewers, and then they go out and they buy it without thinking. They mostly exhausted the people who were willing to do that shit, and then the numbers apparently fell off a cliff, and they pulled the ads. This means that it was time to send out members of the team that made the game in order to get free advertisement. The game journalists are, of course, more than happy to write puff pieces about studios like Sucker Punch and games like Ghost of Yotei. The willingness to do that is precisely why they have access in the first place. So, without further ado, let's take a look at this article here from Game Informer, where they refuse to ask anything about the controversy surrounding the game. Instead, it's just purely puff piece crap. They interviewed the co-director of the game, Jason Connell, and the main writer of the game, Ian Ryan. And let's just look at a sampling of the questions that were asked. Here they said,
I like Ghost of Tsushima protagonist Jin Sakai, but I have to say, I like Atsu a lot more. Can you explain your intentions with her as a character and how you made her so endearing?
Wow, that's just such hard-hitting journalism right there, isn't it? You guys are just awesome. Can you tell me how you got to be so awesome? Anyhow, the writer of the game answered, I think one of the early goals was we wanted to create an outsider character who players could really relate to, and also to just tell a really personal story and focus on that. There's the huge backdrop of these factions, that Matsume samurai and Lord Saito and his clan, and that conflict slowly brewing, but we really wanted to focus first and foremost on Atsu in this tale of revenge, and how she's trying to heal herself, and that wounded heart she has as she's trying to cross the names off the list and get revenge. We just ultimately wanted to focus on that. And then a lot of it also came out of working with Erika Ishii, who just did a great job embodying the character and bringing her to life. We worked with her in the recording and in shooting scenes and doing a lot of writing, workshopping of the character to make sure that we were representing the classic archetypes from American westerns, but also from spaghetti westerns, that wandering warrior archetype who can stroll into a town, who is a mercenary, but also someone who has the deep heart, the compassion, who can recognize who is another victim, or someone who's been through hell and back, and who might want to help them. So, we were constantly trying to explore that tension, and striking that. And here is another sample of what was said in this long-ass interview. Once again, note the complete ass-kissing from the interviewer. You can absolutely tell why this person was given the opportunity to do the interview in the first place. The interviewer said,
How was Erika Ishii cast, and how much influence did they have over the character? Is there room for improvisation when you're performing for a video game character?
And of course, you will note that the pronoun that this person used for that singular person, Erika Ishii, is they. That is how morons speak, quite honestly. But anyhow, the co-director replied saying, yes, in a lot of ways. Like Ian just mentioned, writing, workshopping, and there was workshops with Erika to try to help find the character. I think that's an important part of the journey. You kind of have this idea from the very beginning. Before Ian even writes anything, maybe we have this idea for this type of character, and that gets a little bit more refined and exciting when Ian goes and writes something. And then we're going to skip that next paragraph where he just talks about the casting process ad nauseum symposium, but in the paragraph after that, the co-director says, "To us, that's sort of the stuff that gets us excited. I will say that once we narrowed in on Atsu, I think we were pretty hopeful it would work out because we were all very excited about it, and then you go through a couple other stages of auditions, but once they are cast, I don't think that's like, okay, just go shoot Atsu. There's half a year to a year of just figuring out the relationship of Erika to Atsu, and they are going to bring a lot of their own personality, a lot of their own choices, and it kind of evolves, and it's this beautiful creative thing that you're making together, and I think Ian and the writing team did a really good job bringing such great characters out of not just Erika, but all of them. They brought their best, and that last they, I believe, is supposed to refer to the whole team of writers and the actress, but since this jackass who said all of this was also playing the pronoun game along with the interviewer, it's hard to tell because you can't be precise when words lose their agreed upon meaning. Just because Erika Ishii wants to be called they, I'll tell you what, it really doesn't help when you're making some sort of conversation like this. It makes it very hard to understand what the hell you're saying. But while this was meant to be a total puff piece, as far as I'm concerned, all that it did right there was reaffirm my belief that I made the right call, avoiding the hell out of Ghost of Yotei. I don't want to purchase anything made by someone who is willing to compromise the very language that he uses in order to pander to the alphabet people. And certainly I'm not alone. If our estimates as to Ghost of Yotei's total sales numbers after 2 weeks are to be believed, then they are trending far behind Ghost of Tsushima. And the problem with these articles written by game journalists who are glazing Sucker Punch, the problem is that they are written for people who would have already agreed with them that this is just the bestest game ever. And for people like me, who need a hell of a lot of convincing, let's just say they aren't using the sort of language that speaks to me. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your mockery of Ghost of Yotei and Sucker Punch into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.